Welcome back, everybody, to Who's Your Band. This is the first episode of 2021. Happy New Year, Sean Morton.
Oh, Jeffrey, I hope this year is so much better for your comedy career than last year was, because last year was the best year you ever had in comedy.
Damn, shots fired.
Buckle in, Linette.
Yeah, I have a feeling there's going to be 2 against 1 today. After what we're going to talk about, but it's been 2020. I'm glad to see it behind us. I'm cautiously optimistic for 2021, and let's get the show started. Let's introduce our first guest of the new year. This is a friend of. Yes, this is a friend of both of ours.
Yes,
we love her. She's such a good-hearted person with terrible music taste. But let's introduce from HBO, Miss Linette Palladino.
Well, hi guys, how are you?
Oh, just fantastic.
Yes, she is.
Did you guys watch football today? I don't want to spoil anything.
Of course, we watch football. We're red-blooded American men.
Well,
Whose teams both suck. Of course, we watch football.
No, I have to root for the Eagles tonight. I need to.
So do I. How painful is that?
For the Giants to be NFC East champs with a record of 7-10. 6-10.
6-10. Get that right.
6-10.
Sean, I'm getting Bobby Rydell flashbacks.
Oh my God. Now, Linette, I don't know if you're a fan of the show or ever watched this show, but we had Bobby Rydell, who was an old 60s singer, and he proceeded to hijack the show by screaming at the television because he's 78 years old and doesn't realize how technology works. And then when he realizes that he's on an actual podcast and he's screaming at the Eagles the entire episode.
Nice.
We're hoping we're not doing that again this week.
No. We're good. The only screaming might be from my 2-year-old.
Let's talk about you. Okay. Let's talk about Linette. You're a very interesting person. I always found you to be a very interesting person. And the first thing I want to ask you about is when did you get your start in comedy?
I started doing comedy in August of 2014, the summer of 2014. I took a class with Corey Kahaney through Manhattan School of Comedy, which is they partner, they do all their graduation shows with Gotham. And then I just never looked back. That was it.
What inspired you? Because again, like I said, interesting person. You had a military career, right?
I have a military career.
You're still active in the military.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're in the military, but what made you decide to make the leap into stand-up?
It kind of comes from a sad place. My dad had passed away in March of 2014. And we didn't do a lot of hugs in my house when I was a kid. Being in the Army, you don't really process emotions the same way, I don't think. So I kind of went the route of I just need a sort of creative outlet. I need to do something fun. I just need to do something kind of selfish for myself. And I landed on stand-up comedy, which wasn't out of left field by any stretch of the imagination. I'd been a performer my whole life up until I graduated college. Everything. I've played a musical instrument since I was 11. I played French horn all the way from grammar school through college.
That's not an instrument.
Okay, just kidding.
It's a nerdy band instrument. That's not a guitar, bass, or drums.
It is literally called the king of the orchestra.
Oh, okay.
I love the Beach Boys.
Who goes to orchestras?
The Beach Boys are well known to have French horn. So you played the French horn. Did you do any type of acting or anything?
I did, and I sang. I was president of the university choir at Fordham Lincoln Center for 2 years. I was in the vagina monologues 1 year in college. I was one of those uber nerds in high school. I did everything in high school, captain of this, that, and everything else. Or an officer. I did a lot. And then once I graduated college, I went straight off to my officer basic course. Within 9 months of graduating college, I was in Iraq. And then most of
what branch of the military?
Army. Yeah. And I spent the first 3 years out of college either deployed or doing something Army related.
What was Iraq like?
The first time I went to Iraq, it was great. I went to Iraq in March 2009 to March 2010, and then I went again in September of 2016 to September of 2017. 2017. Although I came back in July, but my orders went all the way through. So the first time it was great. It was a really incredible experience. I was working at like a very high level of government. Like we would get taskers directly from like the White House or Congress or Joint Chiefs of Staff. And then my second time in Iraq was trash. Like ISIS is no joke.
Why was it trash? What made it?
It was I was working at the lowest level of the Army that I had ever worked at. I was at the battalion level. I was working with people who were not, I don't really think they viewed the Iraqis as our equals, as our partners in the fight against terrorism, the fight against ISIS. If I'm being perfectly honest, a lot of them were just there collecting paychecks. It was a very uncaring situation. Whereas, of course, my shop, I'm an intel officer, and I had a shop of analysts, of about 4 or 5 analysts that I would, not to say overwork, but I made sure to make them feel the purpose and the full understanding of what their contribution was to the fight against ISIS. And it was like the work that we were doing as analysts was incredible. And then, of course, 10 feet across the aisle from us, there were people there who weren't gainfully employed, sometimes through no fault of their own, sometimes because they were absolute dirtbags. And it was a really frustrating situation, to say nothing of the actual work that I had to do, which was read every single day for 9 months the gruesome, horrific things that ISIS was up to.
I was going to ask you that. How bad was ISIS in Iraq?
That stuff will drain you. They were awful. I can put it to you this way. Here's like one example of one of the things that ISIS was responsible for. When they invaded the Yazidi region of Iraq, which is where Iraq starts to border Turkey. It's also known as like the Kurdistan area. When they invaded the Yazidis, they killed most of the military-aged males, and they took all of the childbearing females, whether they were 12 or 42, and they sold them off into sexual slavery. They didn't just sell them into sexual slavery. They created like glossy magazines. They itemized each woman. They figured out like whether she had gotten her first period yet, whether she was still a virgin, whether she had had any kids yet. All of those went into like demographics of a profile that they were building for each woman. And then that woman would go into a catalog, and you would like pick which sexual slave you wanted to buy. And she came with like a certificate, like your certificate of authenticity. And she was not freed until you gave her certificate back, or she somehow escaped. Because even if the guy who bought her decided he was like going to go martyr himself and blow himself up, he could just take that certificate and hand it to his brother and be like, well, she's yours now. Have a great time.
What did you do? Like collecting all this data? Did you have to keep track of it, or was there anything? Did you intervene?
Yeah, no. I'm an intel officer. So what I would do is read, process, analyze, and then provide my assessment. So as an intel officer, that's where we make our bread and butter on the value, accuracy, timeliness of our assessments. Will these assessments affect on my specific unit's operations or my higher unit's operations in the next either 96 hours, month, 3 months, 9 months, whatever the case is.
Is ISIS still as strong now in the Middle East?
No. Not even close. No.
What was the biggest difference that you saw in yourself going in as a regular, just going into the Army, and then, all these years later? Like, what is the biggest change that you've noticed in yourself?
Well, I can tell you that just in the Army in general. So the Army that I grew up in was, I think the easiest way to describe it was very English, right? Like there's just no feelings. You shove that shit down in like a little box and you don't open it until you die. And then we realized that's not healthy. I don't know if you heard, the Army has an incredibly high suicide rate.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's pros and cons to that approach of dealing with your feelings. We talk about resiliency constantly, but then we also talk about advocating for yourself. And we are much more gentle about mental health than we ever were. So I've been in the Army 14 years and I'm watching this transition, and I'm watching the guys and women, the folks that are, nearing retirement, that are maybe 5-10 years older than me in the service, that are having a really hard time understanding that, because you have these young kids who are 18, 19, 20 years old who have only ever been told to affirm your feelings, to speak your opinions, to if you're having a bad day, that's okay. You come back the next day and we try it again. And that is great. But sometimes we have to approach things in the military with a sense of urgency. And as much as I would like to give you all the time in the world to process your feelings, your emotions, I also need you to be a little thick-skinned or set your feelings aside for a minute so that you can do what we need to do. And I promise we'll give you all the time in the world later. But right now, like, we need to focus. And
is that a problem now, Linette?
I don't want to say it's a huge problem, but it's a very sensitive, difficult problem to navigate. And it's very real. Like, I have soldiers right now that I love to death that are such incredibly hard workers that are great. But because there's somebody like one step above me who's given them a really hard time, they're like, I don't even know if I want to be in the military anymore. And I get that feeling because I've been there. I'm like, I don't. And then, so that is probably the biggest change. The biggest change is in, all of the Me Too stuff, all of the racial inequity, all of that stuff is happening in the military just the same way. And people would go, oh, well, then you just need to be, more thick-skinned, tougher. Our problems are no different, right? Like, and our approach to those problems is where we go, should they be different? Should the military handle these situations differently? Or is maybe that person just not cut out for the military? And that's a really hard pill to swallow.
I found it interesting too, because like my nephew was in 82nd Airborne for a while, and he would talk about things just so freely and without blinking an eye. Like, he would make a joke, like, we would say, no, did you ever kill anybody? He'd be like, no, of course, in front of the family. And then like he'd get me alone and he'd go, sixth person in the charge of a Taliban, I slit his throat from ear to ear. I'm like, Jesus, I don't want to know this shit. I don't want to know this shit. But he would talk so freely about that. But then like I played a joke on him one time and said, hey, come over for dinner. And I gave him an MRE and he lost his mind. Yeah. So like a little thing triggered him like that, So I do understand like the whole balance of, trying to keep the very serious business of being in the military to also the real serious, fragility of the human mind as well, too.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. And, sometimes I kind of just laugh. Like, I'm like, I think you guys forget what you signed up for. Because like, the Army is not a 9-to-5, and it's not just when you're wearing the uniform. There's so many times where, especially on a podcast, where I've said something like, oh my God, I just lost my retirement. Like, oh, fuck. Because we represent the military at all times. And
how important is your sense of humor, though, to get you through all this?
This is funny because none of my soldiers, 2 soldiers that are in my current battalion know that I do stand up. Well, I take that back. My commander also knows. So my commander.
Well, now everyone's going to know that you're doing stand up.
Thankfully, I'm not important enough that people bother to Google me. But my first sergeant Googled me. So it's like, so when were you going to tell me, Dick? I was like, thanks. And I told my boss, my battalion commander, I told him, And he's like, well, as long as you just keep everything on the up and up. And I feel like he and I might have two different definitions of that. But it definitely is tricky. And of course, you guys know Vince August. I mean, if it ever came down to it, like, I don't think I'd have a hard time making the same decision that Vince made.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about something exciting in your life that just recently happened. You were just on HBO Latino doing.
I was. Yeah,
walk us through that whole process. Tell people about that. People may not know you. This is exciting news.
It was really exciting. So I had a couple of friends forward me, an open call to submit to HBO Latino to compete for a special with HBO Latino. So basically, HBO Latino
is this the same? I'm sorry. Is this the same show contest that Alex Carabano was a part of?
Yes, Alex Carabano won it alongside Mark Vieira.
Sure, I know Mark.
Yeah, and Mark. I mean, the two of them have been in the game for a long, long time. So it is the same competition. That was the very first year of it, and they both won. So they both came out with, I think it's a 15-minute special on HBO Latino. So basically, HBO Latino has their version of like Netflix's The Degenerates or Killers or whatever it is, where you don't do like a full 30 or a full hour-long special. You get this 15-minute bit.
It's called the Pendejos, actually. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's so much better than 15 minutes because it's solid. It's easy to watch. Right? There's no fall off.
Yeah, no, it was an incredible opportunity. And it was completely free to submit to. So that's always fun. I submitted at literally with 40 minutes to go on the deadline. Like you had to have it in by 11:59 on November 13th. I was on my phone at 11:10 because I had been trying to get a better tape that same night. And I ended up submitting a much older tape. I completely forgot about it until one day. I'm selling the house that I'm sitting in right now. I was moving shit, and in the process of moving, I didn't have my phone near me, and I saw 3 missed calls. I was like, the fuck? And then I had a text from that same number, and they were like, oh, it's Calixto Chinchilla. Please call me back as soon as you get a chance. And I was like, who's that? So I Googled him, and it was the founder of NYLIFT, the New York Latino Film Festival. And I went, holy shit. Like, why? Like, nobody's going to call you 3 times to tell you lost. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they send you an email, like, if they even send you an email, they're like, sorry, maybe next year. But no, they called me. I was in tears, just completely overwhelmed with emotion. I mean, because this year has been so hard for all of us. So to get that kind of validation and feedback from the industry was pretty huge. And it happened in a flash. Like, they called me on a Wednesday. They were supposed to announce it that Friday. They pushed it off to Monday. But by the following Wednesday, or by the following Thursday, I was on a plane to LA. So within 8 days of finding out, I was on a plane to LA to compete.
Where did you run the set? I mean, especially in this time, it's so hard to get stage time. So where were you?
Yeah.
And doing it on Zoom isn't quite the same as having to do it in front of.
It wasn't. So in fact, I posted. Not a lot of comics responded, but I posted asking if anybody had any stage time. I truly only needed 5 minutes. We were only competing with a 5-minute set. So it was like just 5 minutes. And I reached out to a bunch of people personally that I knew were running shows. And it was the last week before they closed indoor dining again in New York City. So I got really lucky that I got to do a couple in-person spots, and then I did a couple Zoom shows, and I felt like very confident about my set. Joe Larson, very good friend of mine, he came, sat here in this basement with me, and we picked out like my greatest hits. And we ran it. We ran it like 3 times. We worked on an opener. We worked on how to handle like the Zoom situation, because a lot of my best jokes had like a little bit of crowd work to them. You know what I mean? Like you pick on somebody in the audience, you ask them a question, and you use that as a segue. So we talked about how to navigate that situation.
Were you able to use that during the competition? Because I saw that they had like TV screens. So could it be somewhat interactive?
Yes. So this was a Zoom on steroids. So we were all personally encouraged to invite our families and friends to participate on the Zoom, especially if they could guarantee that they were going to be in like a quiet, secure place and like just be audience members. And I sent it to like everybody that I thought would show up. And I was like, hey, like, just so you understand, if you join the Zoom this way, you're going to be in the audience. Like, I will be able to see you. You will be one of the floating screens as I'm giving my set. I would love to hear your laughter, see your face as a show of support. And a lot of friends did, a lot of family did, and they would just monitor. There were 3 people acting as like producer operators. One guy was just keeping the Zoom up, like keeping it alive, making sure everybody could be heard and in both directions. One guy was switching out which faces were up on the screens to make sure that somebody who was on their phone wasn't being shown, because that's not who you want to perform to. You don't want to perform to the person that's distracted, or the people that were like having conversations in the background were getting immediately muted.
Was it like a typical Zoom show where you had like half black boxes?
No black boxes would have been on the screen. So the screens rotated. I think it was a wall of about 30. And so the wall was a semicircle, and they would just shift faces throughout.
The set looked great.
I am honestly, like, I keep saying this to people. I'm shocked that we don't have it in New York, that one of these clubs hasn't said, we can build that. Let's start doing shows that way. We can build it, and for $40 to be in a private audience with any of us, like
in the same clubs that pay you $10 a spot and they want you to pay $3 for chicken fingers. Those clubs that don't want to invest money. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay. I want to make sure we're on the same page here.
I did hear that the Cellar did something like that on New Year's Day with a company called Mint. I heard that they did something like that, but it wasn't a Zoom. So it was live, but it wasn't a Zoom. So I don't know how interactive it was. Like, I could point to a friend and talk to them.
That's great.
I think no matter what, we could do all the technology in the world we want. Comedy is still a contact sport.
Yeah.
So after you were done, whatever the outcome was, it was still, like you said, tremendous validation for your career, and it had to be a hell of an experience for you.
The guys that won, so there were 2 winners announced. We didn't know that. There was one, and then they were like, hey, wait a minute. The guys that won are both really cool dudes, Abby Sanchez and Cisco Duran. Abby's from
Cisco
Chicago.
From Miami?
Yes.
Oh,
Cisco
sure.
from Miami.
Yeah, man. Oh my God, he's been around for such a long time. That's Carlos Mencia's opener for years.
Yeah, so and that's the thing. Like, Cisco has been doing it for a long ass time, and Abby's at 10, maybe 11 years. He just got the year before he had just gotten his JFL credit. So I have zero issues with losing out to them. Like, these guys have been grinding. They're doing their thing. It's not like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like some fucking nobody that came out of nowhere.
But that's still a nice bump up for you.
Yeah. I mean, I've only been in this game 6 years, if you include that whole year that I was deployed, and as we know, taking a month off from comedy is hard, let alone a year.
So another thing I want to ask you is, how do you do it, man? You are, listen, before COVID, we used to see each other all the time. You were always one of the grinders, the hardest working comedians I've ever seen, just constantly out there, whether it be barking or performing or networking. And then you're also a mom and a wife. And, it's like, man, how do you, and you're out there doing late spots, and you're out there doing like whatever you can do. And nothing is below you, which means, like, I think I don't
do them all well, right?
No, you do. I'm not married.
I
I
can
don't
tell
know.
you right now, I'm not my child's favorite parent.
Well, you had a 50-50 shot at that and you blew it.
Did,
But
that's what I say. I say it all the time. I had a 50-50 shot. I have no issues with not being the favorite parent. She's 100% a daddy's girl. And I kind of feel bad for him because right now, like, she won't let me do shit. She goes, no, mama, you know, change my diaper. Dad changed my diaper. I'm like, as you wish, bitch. I don't give a shit.
I still say one of the greatest moments of my comedy career, one of the most fun, was actually working with you. And you were probably about 37 weeks pregnant at the time?
No, that was the week I gave birth.
Oh, so you were right there. My whole mission, I had never met Linette until that night.
Mm-hmm.
We're at this very
Crow's Nest in Hackensack.
Crow's Nest in New Jersey, which, Jeff, if you don't know, is basically like a cougar hangout. So like if you want to never been there? Oh, you should definitely go. But I just met Linette and I'm looking at her and I'm like, it's one of those awkward moments where like, well, is she just really chunky? You have that moment. And then of course, it comes out that she's pregnant. So now my whole mission, and she says like, yeah, I'm due like any minute. My whole goal was to make her water break that night. I went out with my greatest hits trying to make sure that I had my first person ever have a baby during one of my sets. Did not work though.
That show was hilarious because a lot of my family, I don't always get to do shows in Jersey, but my family is here in Jersey, and they came out, and the people who are like my little sisters were out at a back table, and they're like 22, 23 years old. And Sean's doing crowd work with them. They're like, he's like, how old are you? Like 22. Oh, your pussy still smells like rainbows and butterflies. They were like mortified.
I know, I love that.
That's become a family joke now.
That's awesome. But yeah, you are a very active mom. How do you find the balance with that, and still trying to be a mom, be a wife, be a soldier, and be a comedian all at the same time? I give you a lot of credit. I don't give anybody credit. I really don't.
You never give me credit.
Yeah, I mean, you can't do it all at once, right? I mean, there were a couple times I wore my daughter on stage because I couldn't find somebody to watch her. But thankfully, my husband and I have the financial means to have help. I have an au pair, which is incredible. She's the best. I've had one since my daughter was 6 months old, and now I've had one for the last 2 years. So having that amount of childcare per week, it almost guaranteed is just, it's the only way to function. But I'm also very strategic. So like if I was like I'd get home from McDougal Street at like 2 a.m. I would sleep until 6 a.m. when she woke up. And then when my daughter would nap in the afternoon, I would nap with her.
That's what you do in a week before the pandemic.
Like 12 to 15.
Yeah, that's a good amount of stage time. That's making up for lost time. Do you see, you Comedy Pete, you guys were like these New York City staples on that street. Yeah. Do you see New York City coming back?
No. Oh my gosh. So, I mean, you guys know Ellen Karras. She posted today. Yeah. She was asking like very candidly, like, what do you think of New York? I'm like, guys, if you are a New York City comedian, you better go get your license. You better go get a car, get that frequent flyer credit card, because it's just not happening in New York City. And we all have to remember that shit rolls downhill. So the people that were embarking on their first theater tours, they're going to, if they get to do their theater tour, great. If not, they're going to get pushed right back into the clubs that we were all trying to like break from host to feature to headliner, like all that shit. Great
point. Yeah. I said this too because and Jeff, you guys work in the city a lot. I'm
still working in the city.
I never do it. I never do it. Yeah. I mean, if I do 2 or 3 shows a year, because I work on the road, and it's a great point because now what's happening even on the road is like, so I'm not saying I'm this national fucking guy in the least bit, but like, within the tri-state area, I've grinded for 11 years to get from host to feature to headline a lot of these clubs. And now when this starts opening up, I know I'm getting bumped back to feature because all of these major comedians now who used to be doing theaters and stuff like that are now doing the fucking Chuckle Huts in Scranton. because they have to do, and they're getting the money that they want too. But it really is a trickle down effect, because now like people like me who are that middle to headline are going back to the middle, and the middle guys are going to host, and the hosts are like, well, guess I'm doing a fucking open mic in the coffee bar again.
Oh my gosh, totally.
It really sucks, but I don't see New York coming back either. That's just my opinion, but I'm an outsider when you really think about it.
No, I think people really are underestimating the severity of the economic impact on New York City right now. And I think we saw the mass exodus over the summertime. I think there's still another wave of people who signed leases in January, February, March of 2020. Once those leases expire, they're like, bye. Mm-hmm. It's not worth paying these fucking prices to live in a city that has nothing to offer me right now.
Very true.
I mean, truly nothing. Like, the museums are open, thank God, but there's no Broadway, there's no opera, the Lincoln Center, there's no dining. I mean, everything's underground or hush hush, or you have to freeze your ass off outside. I mean, I do it because I live in the city. I mean, that's I'm happy to do it. But
the week between Christmas and New Year's is always the best week to do comedy in New York City.
Oh my gosh, 100%.
This year I did a couple shows in the city, and I got to tell you, it was the eeriest, saddest thing I've experienced in quite a while. I mean, it just it never felt that way. It didn't have that same feeling, and I don't think it's coming back. And I think everything you said, I think your point on.
Well, and I don't think it's coming back as people think it is. I really, truly think it's going to take like 10 years. And the city that does come back is going to be...
California is the same way, by the way.
Why would you pay California taxes? Yeah.
Exactly.
When you can go right over to Nevada and not pay that shit.
Yeah, very true.
I really think the desire and the drive that we had towards urbanization, where you would live, work, eat, shit, play in the city, like, you know, there was like, let's get rid of cars and be within a 10-minute walk of everything about your life. You don't need to do that anymore with broadband and internet and working from home. Like, it used to kind of be stigmatized working from home, and now it's not, because everybody's doing it. Like,
well, contact is bad. Contact is bad. Cars are bad. Everything's bad. The way things were before, we did everything wrong. Everything was wrong. According to the way things are now. What were you going to say, Sean, before we get into music?
Well, what I was going to say actually involves music, is because we all have our friends in comedy, Jeff not being one of them. And, but you have friends for different reasons. And you also find common ground with some of those friends too. And one of the pieces of common ground that I do have with our guest today is our love of the same band.
Let's talk about this. All right, let's get into the shit.
Yes, and the reason why I'm taking the lead with the music part of this, Linette, which Jeff usually does, is I will tell the audience your favorite band is Fleetwood Mac.
100%.
They are a great band. I love them. And the reason why I'm taking the reins at this part is because Jeff can't stand Fleetwood Mac.
No, I can't. Most overrated band in music.
I mean, you really have no idea how much that hurts my heart to hear.
Good. Maybe I'll listen. You're a smart girl, and I'm trying to put a little sense into you. One great album. I'll give you that. One great album.
One, not just one.
What's better? That's it. All they have is rumors.
So first of all, let's put that into perspective. Let's put the fact that they had one tremendous album.
I'll give you that. And then the top 10 album.
It's pretty hard to create fucking unicorns every time. Do you know what I mean?
Black Sabbath did it. Iron Maiden's done it. Zeppelin did it.
Okay, now let's talk about that one album. Every decade or so, it ends up in the top 100 again for no fucking reason. People are just like, this shit is the shit. It's kind of...
You know what it is?
Accounting for taste.
Because Fleetwood Mac is not from Staten Island. Is what it comes down to, because unless you're a band called White Tiger or fucking Black Panther, Jeff doesn't like you. That's what it comes down to.
Listen, even off of Rumors, there's only 2 good songs.
No. This is bananas.
No.
Okay,
most overrated song in the history of music is Dreams. I am sorry to say. Everyone with this fucking song. And I can't take... See, I think Stevie Nicks is extremely overrated with her nasally,
I'm sorry,
like an
you
old
think
woman.
the only female to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame
Which was a farce.
is
Linette,
extremely overrated.
So glad you brought that up. How is Pat Benatar not inducted into the Hall of Fame? Joan Jett, by the way, is inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and she was inducted the year before. But Pat Benatar, 1,000% should have been inducted before Stevie Nicks as a solo artist.
You are out of your mind.
I'm not out of my mind.
I will tell you,
a million times better.
Jeff knows that I'm a huge concert goer. I've probably been to somewhere between 800 and 1,000 concerts in my life. And when you go to so many, they all kind of blend in, and like once in a while, one will always stick out. I saw Stevie Nicks in 1991 at the Saratoga Performing Arts Center in Saratoga Springs, New York. He comes out solo, by the way. Every single song, she had a costume change.
Wow!
Only off stage for about 8 seconds.
Yeah.
One. And she had that audience from the first song to the last song. And it was still one of the best concerts I ever went to.
I have seen her, I want to say I've probably seen her like 6 or 7 times by herself. I have seen Fleetwood Mac 4 times, twice with all 5 band members. I was born in the 80s. I should not be able to say that.
Right.
I completely missed the reunion brought to us by yours truly, Bill Clinton.
No, you were lucky.
And it was phenomenal. Like there's just first of all, the fact that all 5 members are still alive, I think that's just a testament to how blessed by God they are. Like they're God's chosen band.
I think it's or it could be looked upon as a plight.
No, none of them should be alive. Do you know how many drugs they did? How many people they fucked? They should all have like HIV and
we're keeping our fingers crossed, Linette.
But think of the balance, though. Think of the torment between Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks playing together for 35 years.
Yeah.
And she writes, and I know it's a stupid meme that people talk about all the time, but like they always say, Taylor Swift, oh, you break up with me, I'm gonna write a song about you. And Stevie Nicks is like, well, hey, listen, not only did I write the fucking song about you, but you're gonna play it on stage with me for 35 years too. And it's the truth, but that now they're not obviously together anymore because he's never going to be in the band again. But that's one of the most
the most talented guy in the band is the guy who got kicked out of the band.
I disagree with that. I think Lindsey is incredibly talented. I think Christine's contributions to the band are extremely underrated. I think a lot of the band's success, every single band member's contributions were clouded by the drama between Lindsey, Mick, and Stevie. But I don't know that he is the most contributing member. I mean, Don't Stop it was written by Christine McVie. It's I don't know that I agree with that.
What are your top 3 songs from them if you had to pick 3?
Okay, so this gets tricky for me because I have versions of how the song was played. Like when they do Tusk on
why?
Listen to me.
Fuck it. The one song I was hoping you weren't gonna pick. I have to be guess. I hate
you're making me so happy, Linette, just so you know.
With the marching band, with the
when the USC marching band comes out,
it sucks.
How do you not get chills? Like it? How do you not get chills?
Because it's terrible. It's terrible. Why do you like it so much?
It's fantastic because I'm
your number one go-to song. The first thing you said. I don't know
if you heard me mention that I played the French horn for
There's no
10
French
years
horn
of my
in
life.
that stupid song. It's all those
there is when
drums.
you do it with USC.
So Linette, when my co-host has a stroke after this episode, are you free on Sunday nights at 7:00 to do a music podcast?
Yeah.
Good. Continue.
I think 100% Tusk is fantastic. I'm a sucker for when the encore happens and Christine comes out by herself and plays a little songbird. I don't know how you don't like how that song just doesn't fucking touch you in your cold, cold heart, Jeffrey Paul.
Songbird.
And then, I mean, yeah, there are times when, there's a Stevie Nicks song that has a Lindsey Buckingham solo, and I just watch them like love glare at each other. Anytime that happens in a song, I'm there for it.
Yeah, that's so dramatic. Are they not going to look at each other? Are they going to reconcile? Who cares?
I can't remember. Was it an MTV Unplugged that they did, or like a VH1 special that they recorded live and they put out like in the late 90s?
They put out a live album. Yes, you're right.
They put out after
in the 90s.
They did the campaign song for Bill Clinton's re-election. They did a tour together, and that's when they released a concert album.
I can remember watching the video of them doing Silver Spring, and Stevie and Lindsey are looking at each other, and you can actually see the daggers being shot at each other while they're singing that song, which is
probably cast a spell on you.
Was that riveting to you, Sean? That was riveting. That it was good. It was good. It was good theater.
It was a moment that was captured on film that you can never deny. So that's one of my favorite songs. I love Landslide as well.
Oh, Jesus Christ. You guys that's in my top 3 hate songs. Landslide. It's the most overrated song ever. It's not poignant. It's not fun.
Yeah, it's just beautiful. Sometimes you have to see beauty and simplicity.
No, it's not.
It doesn't have to be about. It's in my funeral notes to play that song, and I'm gonna have Jeff Paul come and press the fucking play button.
Oh, Linette, he's 50 years older than you. Trust me, he's dying before you. And then I'm going to go with Dreams. Even though I had that little resurgence with the Ocean Spray guy, I'm not going to lie. It brought the song back to number 2, in case you didn't know that, Jeff, because of the...
no one's putting out good new music. I mean...
Well, there's a lot of good music. Listen, if you heard the new Miley Cyrus album.
I've heard the new Miley. It's okay.
You know what? I'm with you 100% on that, Sean. I really think Miley is the next Stevie.
She is the next, without question. She has the same voice. And I was watching some YouTube videos of her last night, and you can tell from like a couple of years ago, she's definitely laying the groundwork to be the next big female rock star.
100. I think she's great. I love her.
I do too. Listen to the Joe Rogan podcast with her, and you'll have a whole new respect for her as well too.
Oh, really?
It's like 3 hours of her talking about how great how much she loves cocaine. It's fantastic. It's fantastic.
There you go. She really is the next Stevie.
Yeah, exactly. I see. And Jeff, here's another thing. Stevie Nicks is probably 71 at this point.
Yeah, she's in the 70s.
73. Still in my top 3.
No.
Oh yeah.
No.
Yep. And I'll tell you what right now. You put Mariah Carey and her in front of me. Don't know who I pick first.
Wow.
Can I tell you this?
That's breaking news.
Yeah.
You guys know I have very long hair. And part of the inspiration for my very long hair is being a Stevie Nicks fan. I'm like, fuck it. If Stevie can have hair down her back at 73, I can have long hair.
Exactly.
Linette, I love you. I think you're okay. I have a lot of respect for you. But if I ever see you on stage twirling, okay, I will kill you.
I dance on stage all the time.
I hate that. That's the thing I think I hate about Stevie Nicks the most is that stupid dancing.
Now, just so you know, when comedy opens back up and I get to book my first show, the first show I'm going to book is going to be me, Jeffrey Paul, and Linette Palladino. And you know what's going to happen? I'm going to make Jeff host, and Linette's going to come out to feature. And as Linette comes out to feature, she is required by contract to twirl her way on stage.
And you know what song I'm going to come out to? Fucking Tusk.
There you go. I will have it piped through the PA. That's in your writer.
Last concert I saw before the pandemic, my wife's cousin thought this would be a great idea. Why don't we all go see this show together? It was a Fleetwood Mac cover band and an Eagles cover band at the St. George Theater. And I couldn't write fast enough what hell was like. I was literally Dante that night, going through the 3 stages of hell. It was one of the worst nights I ever experienced. And that includes the pandemic.
Because I've seen them all live. I have not spent the money to see a Fleetwood Mac cover band, but I often see them at like Cafe Wah. Like they'll have on the schedule a Fleetwood Mac cover band.
And you would like to go to that,
also
right?
from the guy, Linette, by the way, who was actually upset because he had tickets for Air Supply and it got canceled due to the pandemic.
I like it. Yeah. Listen, that's the soft side of Jeffrey.
Oh, talk about me being
you make fun of us and you make fun of me and her.
But at least those guys could sing and they were good songwriters. I mean, Fleetwood Mac. Okay, here are the list of songs I think are brutal by them. Everywhere is a terrible song. Hold Me off of Mirage was brutal. Sarah off of Tusk. I can't. Another one because it just rips me to my core. Gold Dust Woman.
Rock on, Gold Dust Woman.
Did you now?
Okay, can we talk about what you just said? The number of pop references that ultimately end up back with Fleetwood Mac. There's not a single fucking band that can top them. They were immortalized in School of Rock. Mm-hmm. Lee did an entire fucking episode dedicated to them. Bill Clinton chose them as his campaign song. I mean, that's how fucking gangster is that?
It's not gangster at all.
It is gangster.
Don't stop.
To have a city president go, you know what? I want these fucking people who hate each other to get together just to sing for me. just to help me with the presidency. That's amazing.
One of my favorite covers of all time is actually off that Fleetwood Mac tribute album that came out in the late 90s too. Did you ever hear that one?
The Cranberries?
No, it was Sister Hazel did Gold Dust Woman. Ugh. And it is a brutally amazing song. You've sent
me that clip. Yeah.
Yes, I have. It is a classic, Jeffrey. Jeff, check your email after the show. You will have a copy of that as well.
But let's talk about that. There's memes. There's
that doesn't make the music any better than that.
It makes it transcendent. We're talking about an album that was written 40 fucking years ago, and it's still relevant. That's evergreen. That's timeless. How many people's music can you say, I want to put that in the radio
Stones,
today?
The Who, Zeppelin.
No. Really? I truly disagree with you there. I disagree. I can't.
Fleetwood Mac is a top 10 all-time band without question.
They are not. They're not
without question.
Sean, The Who or Fleetwood Mac?
Well, look, I don't like The Who, but I will say that The Who is a more popular album-selling band, but I think that Fleetwood Mac is a better band.
No, they're not. Okay, Stones or Fleetwood Mac?
The Stones, of course.
Okay, Zeppelin or Fleetwood Mac?
Fleetwood Mac.
You say Fleetwood Mac, I will kill you, Sean.
Fleetwood Mac. Zeppelin's a great cover band.
Are you out of your fucking mind? How can you say that?
Zeppelin is the best blues cover band of all time.
Here's the only band.
I'm shocked. He's fucking with me right now. He's fucking with me right now. You're gonna say they're a better blues band than Zeppelin?
No, I said that Zeppelin is a great blues cover band and Fleetwood Mac is a better band in general than Led Zeppelin.
Oh my God. You can't be Sabbath or Fleetwood Mac.
Of course I go Sabbath.
You have to go Sabbath.
Because I'm a heavy metal fan.
Yeah, but I was just going to say, that doesn't appeal to everybody.
Right.
Like when we're talking about universal appeal, I mean, to keep making fans decades after you've written songs together as a band, like that.
The Monkees do it.
You don't have to sell me, Linette, but see, you know what it is? Because me and you are cut from the same cloth. We're intelligent people. We are rational people. We understand good music, and we're not old curmudgeons like Jeff.
Not an old curmudgeon. I'm not an old curmudgeon.
You basically just said back in my day. It's exactly
I didn't say back in my day. Fleetwood Mac is back in my day. I just hated them back then, and then as I grew older, I realized they were terrible.
I could just picture
What
Jeff
are you doing,
sitting
Big
on a
Crosby?
I could just picture Jeff sitting on a rocking chair on some deck in Staten Island, holding a shotgun, just waiting for people to walk across his lawn. That's all.
Allman Brothers or Fleetwood Mac?
Oh, Fleetwood Mac in a heartbeat.
Oh my God, Sean, please.
Okay, but those are different purposes, right? Like
Yes,
I love
he's
the
just
Allman
trying-
Brothers.
so
I've
do
seen the
I.
Allman Brothers.
So do I. But he's just trying to make a point because he thinks that I'm bullshitting him when I'm not.
I can't believe just the talent alone in the Allman Brothers blows away Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah, and half of them are dead. They're all alive in Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah, because they were
It was all Dickie Betts.
Dickie Betts. How about Dwayne Allman?
He's
How
all
about
right.
Derek Trucks? Come on, the whole band was insane.
You're okay.
So
No,
good.
the Allman Brothers are great, but it's a different genre. Like you're comparing apples and oranges.
So what are you putting Fleetwood Mac in? They're a rock band.
They're
They
a
are
rock band, but they're like a rock pop band, I would say. So like I would put them in the same category as like a Heart.
Hot, much better.
Absolutely not.
And wait, you think Ann Wilson isn't as good a singer as Stevie Nicks?
I'm
Stevie
saying
Nicks
that
is
Ann
better.
Wilson is a great singer. I'm saying Stevie
Is the
Nicks is
best.
the top front people of all time. Is what I'm saying.
Freddie Mercury or Stevie Nicks?
Jeff, you're talking like a fucking idiot now, really.
Not
Because
I'm talking like an idiot. You're making these ridiculous. She's the greatest front person that they're a top 10.
The Beatles or Fleetwood Mac.
Because they're not that good. You're saying how good they're not that good.
They are an amazing band. They are well deserved in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So is Stevie Nicks.
She should not over Pat Benatar. I'm sorry.
Her solo career is one of the top 10 female solo careers of all time.
She has 2 songs, dude. 2 songs. That White Winged Dove song and
Edge of 17.
Edge of 17.
Oh, can we talk about that song? Okay, let's talk about Edge of 17 because you brought up Queen and everybody was like, you can't have a 10-minute fucking rock symphony as a single. And Queen was like, yeah, we can. We could do whatever we want. And they came out with Bohemian Rhapsody. Same shit happened with Edge of 17. How long is that fucking song?
The great song, though. The great riff.
Forever. And it's a great song. And only somebody who's as amazing as Stevie Nicks could pull it off.
She does not have 2 good songs, by the way.
That and Stand Back. Those are the only 2 songs.
Leather and Lace.
Room's on Fire. Talk to Me. Look, she did Stop Dragging My Heart Around with Tom Petty. Right?
Overrated. It's a boring song. It's boring. It's boring. When you compare her catalog to Pat Benatar's, it's not even close, man. It's not even close.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
You never heard of
course, I've heard of Pat Benatar, but I can think of 2 Pat Benatar songs.
Lynette, just understand one thing. You've only had to deal with this for about 49 minutes. I've had to deal with this for a fucking year already. Doing this podcast.
Okay, we're going on a year, folks.
Fucking year.
We're going on a year
of this drivel.
It's not drivel. It's
I just don't understand it. When he asked me if I wanted to do the show, I was like, yeah, but you hate Fleetwood Mac. And he's like, that's why it'll be great. I'm like, will it though?
All it does is it shows his ability to be closed-minded to, oh, you know what? They didn't drive a Camaro and wear fucking stonewashed jeans when you're wearing it. You fucking had class and you had money to go out to a nice restaurant.
What's wrong with driving a Camaro?
What's that?
Why is the Camaro bed?
Because you had 3 of them, didn't you?
Said.
You had 3, didn't you? You prick.
What's wrong with the Camaro?
That was the go-to car.
Of course it was, Jeffrey.
Camaro or Firebird. That was it.
Did you have an 8-track in yours?
I certainly did.
Of course you did.
And I would play Ted Nugent Cat Scratch Fever on it.
Oh God! Talk about overrated.
That's all I could afford.
Talk about overrated.
Ted Nugent's not overrated.
Oh, one of the most overrated guitar players of all time.
No way. I put Fleetwood Mac in the same category I put a band like Styx.
Who you went to see, and I got backstage passes to go see Styx in Chicago. Like you were bragging about that.
That's right.
It's like bragging that you have fucking chlamydia, for Christ's sake.
Listen, they're in that same. You know what? They're a band that had one big album, and they kind of milked a career out of it.
What a horrible human being. He is a horrible, horrible human being. This might be my last show. I'm just letting you know. This might be my last show doing this. I don't know if I can continue doing this with somebody who is just that close-minded. Personally,
milk a career out of it. Yeah. I'm sorry, people loved it so much that they couldn't stop.
Andrew Dice Clay is a very nice person when he's off the microphone, he's off camera. He's a very sweet, humble guy. But when you realize that when he's on stage, it's a gimmick. This is just stupidity, Linette. This is what it comes down to. This is not a gimmick.
Secondhand News. Secondhand News. That's a good song.
Yeah.
No, it's not. Oh,
I think that song right there shows how many different genres they put on that album. They had a little rockabilly, they had some hard rock, they had like a nice slow piano tune.
Gypsy.
What's wrong with Gypsy?
Gypsy. Yeah, you don't like Rhiannon now too?
Oh, I've always hated Rhiannon. Always hated Rhiannon. Always hated it. These songs would just like cut me to my core.
I'll tell you what it was, Linette. This is what happened. So you're born in the 80s. I was born in the 70s. Now, Jeff was born in the 50s. So when Jeff was in...
We're not born in the 50s.
When Jeff was in high school, Jeff really tried to get this girl. And he did everything that he possibly could to get this girl. And she would not give him the time of day because this girl wound up dating somebody who was in the school musical. And the guy in the school musical gave her a copy of Rumors on vinyl. And they wound up getting together. And that broke Jeffrey's little black heart, which is the reason why he has this resentment towards them to this day.
Did you try to give her your jacket, your letter jacket, Jeffrey?
I would never give away my jacket because my jacket had.
First of all, he never played a sport in his life.
I had a denim jacket with a Black Sabbath cross on it on the back. That was my go-to jacket.
Of course it was.
Because we're all comedians. In high school,
I was obsessed. I was obsessed by Sabbath growing up. They were my favorite band.
Yeah, why wouldn't you be obsessed with a band who has two hot chicks who sing in it? No, let's have a guy who eats a fucking bat as your idol. That's great.
Because he was great.
Yeah. Okay.
And then Dio Follow equally is great. And then along came Maiden.
Mm-hmm. Linette, what were you going to say? Since we're all comedians, as we're going to wrap this episode
my favorite comedian is Kathleen Madigan. Kathleen Madigan. The more I find out about her, the more I love her because her favorite singer is Stevie Nicks.
See, a lot of people, Linette, who have good taste in music, who appreciate great songwriting, a great voice, a great melody, but also agree that Stevie Nicks is one of their favorite singers as well. Not Pat Benatar, who has to have her fucking husband write every fucking good song for her.
You're nuts. You have no idea. Fire and Ice, Hell is for Children. Those aren't great songs.
Hell is for Children. Yeah. How often do you hear that song out and about versus a Fleetwood Mac song? You cannot go anywhere in public.
Well, you hear Love is a Battlefield just as much.
Garbage.
No, I don't think that's true.
Remember that stupid video where
she got
beaten up in a whorehouse and she's dancing in the street? Get out of here.
The video was pretty bad. But so is the
constant.
One for Big Love.
I think the best part about being a Fleetwood Mac fan is that I know when I walk into Stop and Shop, I'm going to hear them.
And that's the exact reason why you shouldn't like Fleetwood Mac.
No, it's perfect.
You will never hear Sabotage in a Stop and Shop.
No, but that doesn't make it better music.
Of course it does.
No, it doesn't.
Because it's not like baloney sellout. Like
oh God forbid you should have some
music.
Radio appeal.
Listen, Iron Maiden is never on the radio, and all their songs are great.
Are they, Jeff?
Yes, they are. They're. If Sabbath is 1, Maiden is 1A. I can't decide which band I like better.
Well, this is episode 46 of Who's Your Band. We are 6 weeks away from our 1-year anniversary. And so I can make the announcement now, starting with episode 47, it is now going to be myself and Linette Palladino on the show. Actually,
my water
this was
meter.
Actually a lot of fun. Jeff was like, I really want to put Linette on the show, but she's not funny. Her band sucks. And I'm like, dude, she's a great friend. You got to have her on. She's totally fine. This was a great episode. I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun, not just picking on Jeff, having somebody else to do it with me makes it so much easier.
I'm terrified for when somebody will watch this and just screenshot my eyes popping out of my head and just going like this the entire time.
Oh, you're definitely becoming a meme.
She has Adam Gay's eyes.
Jesus Christ. Well, listen, where can we find you on social media?
On my Instagram at Linette_Palladino.
And you post a lot of pictures of your beautiful daughter. A lot of them times she's giving you the stink eye, which I appreciate greatly all the time.
Oh, she hates me.
I love that about her. I love that about Mary. I have not met Mary.
Taste in music.
She was in utero when I met her the first time. I have not met her since, but I will agree. She is definitely, she has good taste in her favorite parent. And thank you for being on the show, though. It was a lot of fun today.
Oh, no, thanks for having me, guys.
Awesome.
Folks, please subscribe. Our numbers are doing great, but we still need subscriptions. So please, people, subscribe. Until next week, Linette, thank you very much.
Thank you, dear.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Sean, take care, folks.
Bye.